Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 1156, June the 9th, 2020, Tuesday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Alrighty, well, let's go ahead and cover the last 24 hours. Alrighty, let's see here. Well, I don't know how many of you saw the video from yesterday where a bunch of demo commies went out with these like African looking scarf things, and they did the kneel down for like 8 or 9 minutes, and after it was over and they all go to get up, Pelosi can't get up. She's stuck. She's down on the ground. She's like she can't stand up. And so she had to call for two people to come over and help her stand back up. And then once they stand her back up, she said something about her high heels. Blaming her high heels for why she couldn't stand back up. Man, she's nuts. I'll tell you what, that was hilarious. That's one of the funniest things I've seen in quite some time. So we know that once Nancy Pelosi kneels, she can't get back up. There's some irony in that, you know what I mean? Once you kneel, you can't get back up. No, you can't. That's why you don't kneel in the first place. It's kind of funny. This country was founded on the idea that our founders simply wouldn't kneel down to the powers in Great Britain. And today you have these leftist politicians who will kneel down at the drop of a hat to pay homage to a group of people known collectively as Black Lives Matter, who in recent times, some of their most famous slogans are, of course, kill the cops, and how many cops, do we want to kill them now? All these things that they were saying. I mean, if you go back and watch the BLM protests back in Ferguson and other places, they have these slogans that they shout, and they're all about killing the cops and all kinds of stuff. The only good cop's a dead cop, and this kind of stuff. So this is really amazing. It's absolutely going to backfire hugely. And of course the Democrats are figuring a lot of this out right now, but it's kind of too late because they're kind of stuck. But we'll get back more into that later. Let's move on to the next story. So I'm thinking, as these riots, they are continuing, but obviously they're slowing down. But I'm thinking that here sometime in the next couple of weeks, I would think, even in these blue cities and blue states, you're going to see this stuff start to die down as people begin to tire and they find something else to do with their time. There's going to be a point where a lot of these businesses in, say, a place like Minneapolis, they'll have to decide what they're going to do. So imagine yourself as a person who owned a business in Minneapolis. First, you are told you have to shut your business down because of coronavirus. Then, after being told you have to shut your business down because of coronavirus, along come the riots, and they essentially allow the rioters, the cops literally stand down. They allow the rioters to go in and damage these businesses, break their windows, loot their stores, burn their buildings down, what have you. You have all this goes on, and then the very next thing they do is they decide that it will be a good idea to get rid of the police. So, I mean, if you're a business owner now in Minneapolis, are you going to try to reopen your business? I mean, if you have a lick of sense in your head, you're not going to. Why would you do that? You've just been through coronavirus. If you survive that, then you make it through having your property burn while the fire department stands there and watches it burn, because that's what they're being ordered to do. The cops stand there and allow people to loot your property because that's what they've been ordered to do. And then they come out and say, okay, we're going to disband the police. I mean, if you're a business owner in Minneapolis, why in the world would you reopen your business in Minneapolis? I mean, if you can open your business at all, or reopen your business, why would you do it there? I mean, you'd have to be nuts. I can't imagine any business owner sitting there with that decision saying to themselves, okay, the coronavirus now has passed. The riots are pretty much over. I guess we would go ahead and get our business fired back up. But wait, they're going to disband the police. That doesn't sound good. Now, obviously, it's a rhetorical question. Of course, no business owner in Minneapolis who's got a lick of sense in his head is going to choose to reopen their business in Minneapolis. They might go to another city, but they're not going to do it there. Why would you? Well, they probably wouldn't. Now, let me give you a tip if you live in Minneapolis. If there's any way in this world that you can move, even if it's just to move out of the city, maybe there's some places in Minnesota that are red counties. I don't know. I don't live there. But if there's some place you can go outside of a blue area in Minneapolis or outside of a blue area in Minnesota, you might want to go there. And let me tell you why, especially if you own a property or any investment properties. And I can tell you this from firsthand experience. Firsthand experience. If you own a property or an investment property in a place like this, your property values are about to go down significantly. You're about to lose significant property value. And of course, for a lot of people, their home is their largest investment. So your property values could drop by 20, 25% or more. And they're not coming back up. They're only going to stay down as long as these policies are perpetualized. If they actually do disband the police, and it appears that they're serious about that, on top of everything else, they're looking for some federal money. I hope Trump doesn't give them a single penny. I don't want a single penny of my federal tax dollars going to help Minneapolis. They had the opportunity to bring in the National Guard and put down those riots before this thing even got started, and they refused. Now they want us to all come in and bail them out? No way. But like I say, if you're a property owner in Minneapolis, in an area that's anywhere near where all this destruction took place, your property values are about to drop like a rock. And for a couple reasons. Number one, the demand for property, for people wanting to buy a property there, is going to drop, because no one wants to live in a city where they have no police. You certainly don't want to own a property in a place where they're not going to have any police, because your property is probably going to get looted and vandalized. You're probably going to be robbed multiple times a week. It's not good. You don't really want to be there, right? So anyhow, this is what's going to happen. Obviously, this is going to run business out. When there's no business, there's no jobs. When there's no jobs, you get more crime, more poverty, more people walking around with nothing else to do except for to go out and rob people and do things and such. It's just this whole, you're going to get into a whole cycle of events that are going to start taking place, which are going to drive down property values. And it's going to turn even what was once nice neighborhoods in Minneapolis are now going to become slums. So you could live in like a middle-class neighborhood in Minneapolis today, but a year from now, your neighborhood may be at that point turning into the slums. So if you own a property in that city, you may want to consider selling, putting your house on the market tomorrow, because I'm telling you, your property values are going down. In these cities, it's going to take them years to recover. Years. Not to mention, when all your businesses leave and property values drop, revenues drop as well, which means services get cut. And who gets cut? The cops. Of course, they're not going to have any cops. So what do you do if you're a homeowner in Minneapolis and now they've just canceled the police force? You have no cops. Instead, you have some sort of a community community resource, some phone number you call when someone's, robbing your house or something at 3 o'clock in the morning, and you call, and there is no police line because there are no more police. Instead, you get a social worker. you get a psychologist on the phone. Yes, someone just kicked in my window. They just broke in my house. I can hear them downstairs. They're ransacking. Please send the cops. Oh, that's right. We don't have any cops. Send whoever you guys send. Send somebody. And of course, you got a psychologist on the line, and they'll try to talk you through it. Now, calm down, ma'am. They're in your home now. Okay. The most important thing is don't provoke them. Do whatever they tell you to do. That's right. Just follow their instructions. If they want your property, give it to them. Give them all your cash. Give them all your credit cards. Give them all your jewelry. Give them all your guns. Give them everything you got. Let them take what they want. And then on the way out, offer to wash their feet. And don't forget to bow down to them. Thank them for robbing your house because you have white privilege. And, give them a big kiss on the cheek on the way out the door and apologize. Yep, that's what it's going to be like in Minneapolis. So, this election is about 5 months away. And here in about 5 months, we're going to find out a whole lot about this country. We're about to find out a lot of things about this country. We're going to find out how many sane people live here. That's what we're going to find out. Because now there's a clear demarcation line that clearly will denote who is sane and who is insane. This is now very easy. Before the lines were kind of blurred because of the propaganda. But now you don't have to rely on propaganda. Everyone's watching what has been happening for the past 4 months. From telling us we all have to shut down from coronavirus and we have to destroy our businesses, disrupt our lives, do all this stuff because we're told we can't spread the disease. Then the very same people, here come along the riots, and the very same people that said that we had to do social distancing, we couldn't go out, we couldn't be in groups, we couldn't do this, couldn't do that, couldn't go to a funeral, couldn't go to a wedding, couldn't do this, all this stuff. Now the very same people are now saying, no, it's perfectly okay. In fact, we want these people to come out. Yes, come on out and protest. There's no violent mobs out here. It's just peaceful protesters. And by the way, we're going to disband the cops. We're going to defund the cops. Now, here is where it's very easy for a person who's sane to look at this and go, the coronavirus, we couldn't get together in groups of more than 5 or 10, but now the very same people told us that, tell us that it's okay to have tens of thousands of people on the street destroying property. That's okay. There's something wrong with that. See, I'm saying that the sane people are going to start putting 2 and 2 together. And I'm talking Democrats, because, a lot of people, not all Democrats are the far left extreme crazy people. They're just people who grew up as a Democrat, their mom was a Democrat, their dad was a Democrat, their grandparents were Democrats. They're all Democrats. All their friends are Democrats. They just vote Democrat. They don't give a damn, right? Because things really don't change all that much, typically, but until Trump came along. Now there really is a difference. And a lot of these people who are Democrats, particularly, I'm sure some of these people in Minneapolis who own these businesses are Democrats. There's got to be some Democrat business owners, and they have to be sitting back looking at this as well. But clearly, what all of this has done, the coronavirus on top of the riots and the position and the things that we were told about both being completely contradictory, proved that this was really a lot about politics. And a lot of people, Democrats included, are the same ones, are going to figure out this situation. There's also going to be a lot of people who are those type of people who never really vote because they say, well, there's no difference, Republican, Democrat, who cares? It's all the same. It's a rigged deal. I'm not going to waste my time voting. So here you have 2 groups of people, these people who never really thought there was a difference, but now they can clearly see that there is a big difference between Trump and the Republicans and these crazy Democrats in these blue states and blue cities. So they're able now to put 2 and 2 together, and they're able to look at this. So this is why I say, here in about 5 months, when the election comes, we're going to find out exactly what this country is made of. We're going to find out who actually is in this country. How many sane people are there? Because you have to be really, insane to vote for a Democrat today. And it's easy to see now. It's no longer a blurry picture. It's a very, very clear picture. You really have 2 stark contrasts for the first time in a very, very long time. I can't even remember when is the last time I can remember such a stark contrast between voting for the Republican or the Democrat. It is a very, very stark contrast right now of the difference between the 2. So the people who never voted before might suddenly get motivated, and the people who've been voting Democrat, who are actually sane and not part of the zombie crowd, they are likely going to vote in their own interest, and it will be to vote for Republicans. So I think that we're going to find out some things here in November. And I just pray to God, I just pray to God that there's more sane people in this country than there are crazy people. That's what we have to hope for at this point. That's our only chance, survival. Well, the Biden campaign obviously understands this very well, because yesterday the spokesperson for Quid Pro Quo Joe came out and said that Biden does not support defunding cops. And, that was the right position to take, but unfortunately, Biden is going to get boxed in, as he has allowed himself to become further and further pulled to the left, as the Democrats have become pulled further and further to the left. Biden's getting sucked into this. It's almost like a current, an undercurrent that he can't control. He's getting sucked in. Now, his position here, not to support defunding cops, he's going to take a backlash over that. Of course, the Bernie Bros and a lot of these other people on the left are going to hit him on this. And he's going to find this happening to himself as they get more and more radical. As we get closer and closer to the election, these leftists who now feel pretty empowered because they've gotten the leftist politicians, police chiefs, mayors, governors, whatever, they've gotten them all to buy into what they're doing. So now they feel like they have all this leverage and power, and they're going to use that. They're going to use that to work over these Democrat politicians, and it's going to put Biden in a real box. He's going to have to start taking some real hard positions here very soon as to whether he's with the woke left or not. Democrat politicians going to say, are you with the woke left or not? Now, this is the active, energetic part of their base. And so a lot of Democrats are going to find themselves being boxed in by either having to sign up for what the woke mob is into or not. And if they're not, they're simply going to be cast off as well. Then they might as well be conservatives. They're of no use to us. So, I mean, this Biden is going to be put into a box that he doesn't want to be in. You can see by his spokesperson coming out and making the statement. Now, they made sure it wasn't him who made the statement. They made sure it was a spokesperson so that he is free to move on that position wherever he needs to at a specific time. But it's not going to work. He's pretty well boxed in. But, speaking of Bernie Bros, where is Bernie? Has anyone seen Bernie in the last 2 weeks? I haven't heard a word about Comrade Sanders. Not a word. Haven't seen him. Haven't seen any. Haven't seen him at any of the protests. I haven't seen him commenting on the protest. I haven't seen Bernie say a word. Not a word about any of this. I think that's very interesting. Why do you think Bernie hasn't taken such a, this is one of these golden opportunities that politicians don't pass up. So why has Bernie basically gone underground? Not a word from him or his campaign. What does that tell us? Well, it tells us one thing: he's smarter than Biden. That's what that tells us. That's a good question. More people ought to ask it, and someone ought to go put a microphone in front of Bernie and get his take. There's another thing I was thinking about too, about Minneapolis and cities like that, where they've been, basically burned and torched and looted. If in fact Minneapolis and other cities decide to follow, run by liberal governors and mayors, if other cities follow suit and disband the police or whatever, you got to wonder how many banks will actually continue to maintain a banking location in that city, or even an ATM. They blow up ATMs. I was reading one story the other day where 26 ATMs have been blown up with people trying to blow up the ATM to get the money out. So if you're a bank, a community bank, whether it's this bank, that bank, any bank, we have community banks all over here. I probably have 5 banks within a mile of me. They're everywhere. Can you imagine Minneapolis, a city where once they get rid of the cops, the banks just simply say, we cannot operate here because we're insured. But we can't be insured if we can't provide protection. Well, what are we going to do? Start paying millions of dollars a year for private security to guard all of our banking locations and our ATMs 24 hours a day? It just simply isn't cost effective, and they're not going to be able to do it. So you could very well see, once they disband the police up there in Minneapolis, you could very well see no banks in the city of Minneapolis, and many other types of businesses as well. Remember, businesses have to get insurance, and a lot of them do have insurance against fires, certainly robberies, thefts. So, at some point, you're just simply not going to be able to get insurance. You either won't be able to afford it, or you will not be able to even get it. Insurance companies will simply not insure you. It's like trying to buy a house and get insurance on your house in a floodplain. Insurance companies don't like to insure a property that floods every 5 years catastrophically. So you have to wonder, there's a lot of fallout if they do actually, and it looks like they're going to get rid of the police in Minneapolis. You have to wonder how many insurance companies are going to say, okay, we simply cannot insure any of these properties anymore. And like I said, the banks. I mean, if there's no police force, if you owned a bank, would you put your bank in a city where there's no police force? I mean, you might as well have a neon flashing sign, bank open, please rob us. ATM machines flashing, please blow me up. So you very likely, it's the repercussions of this. I mean, the more as you think through this, it almost becomes comical. But these people are serious. So we'll have to see how that all plays out. But it's actually becoming, it is becoming like a like a spoof comedy, or like a National Lampoon. It's like a National Lampoon presentation or something. It's like, it's hard, it's surreal. Hard to believe that we're witnessing this. But the leftists, I don't know. They've gone. I mean, they were crazy a long time ago, but now they're way beyond that. They're somewhere else, man. I don't know where, but it's something to think about. Like I said, if you live in Minneapolis or in a city similar to that was burned down, looted, and you got a liberal mayor, a liberal crazy governor, whatever, you got to seriously start thinking about your financial situation, because you're going to find that your property values are going to fall like a rock. Your cities are not going to be rebuilt for a very long time. Your property values are going to continue to fall, and it will become just a cascading effect, downward cascading effect. Everything is going to drive everything else down. There's nothing to pull you back up, and there's nothing coming down the road. And again, I mean, it's going to come down to elections in the fall. And if you're in one of these blue cities, blue states, and they re-elect a bunch of these same crazy people, you got to sell your property and get out of there one way or another. You're going to be devastated financially. Ron Johnson has now been granted the authority to issue the subpoenas to the witnesses for his committee. He put out a list of those. There's 33 of those there. He is going to be calling witnesses from the FBI, the DOJ, the State Department, and the intelligence agencies. He's looking for all records related to FISA applications and other aspects of Crossfire Hurricane as it related to FISA warrants. And that, of course, is coming. That's a request from the FBI. He is going to be looking for all FBI DOJ records that were provided to the Inspector General, Huckleberry Horowitz, regarding Crossfire Hurricane investigation. He's going to be looking for at the State Department for all records of contacts with Christopher Steele. And we know there were at least 3 people for sure that we know had contacts with Christopher Steele. He's going to be looking at the DNI for records related to Obama administration's unmasking of Trump campaign and transition figures and intelligence intercepts. Some of the names on that list of 33 would be Comey, Baker, Strzok, Page, Clapper, Brennan, Rice, Priestap, McCabe, Jacob Lew, Sarah Raskin, Victoria F. the EU Newland, Kathleen Kvalik, Jonathan Weiner, Sidney Blumenthal, Cody Shearer, Sally Moyer, Joe Pientka, Susan Rice, Samantha Power. 33 total names on that list. The ones I just mentioned, the ones you know, and there's some others in there that you probably don't know. A lot of State Department people, intelligence community people. So I think Ron Johnson's committee is probably the one to pay the closest attention to. I don't have much confidence in Lindsey Graham and that committee, so I think Ron Johnson may be the committee to watch. Now, they still have the same problem. They can't actually indict anybody or charge anybody. But I think that Ron Johnson is more of a straight shooter than Lindsey Graham, and he will at least ways try to. I think he'll ask some much better questions, and I hope he calls Rodenstein back and digs in to Rodenstein, because Rodenstein was let off the hook time after time after time in the Lindsey Graham hearings. Questions that should have been asked weren't. And another thing, having these hearings where your guys are only allowed 8 minutes and you got 7 guys there, that's 56 minutes. It's 1 hour. You cannot get to the bottom, and these guys can filibuster for an hour. They can BS you for an hour. There shouldn't be any time limits on these. You bring the guy in, you keep asking questions, you're out of questions. That's why I say there's just not much. I'll cover it and we'll talk about it, but I'm not looking for anything to come out of the Lindsey Graham hearings. But I would expect that hopefully Ron Johnson's committee, they won't mess around knowing they only have 8 minutes. When you only have 8 minutes and you only got 7 or 8 guys to ask questions, you don't have time to ask the softball fluff. You don't have time to do spend half your time getting some FaceTime doing your speech. As soon as your time's up, you start asking questions, serious questions. You don't need to go through all the things we already know. You ask questions about the things we don't know. And I just think that we're going to get a lot better questioning and a lot better set of hearings from Ron Johnson than we will out of Lindsey Graham. But speaking of Lindsey Graham, of course, we know yesterday he said, or 2 days ago, he said that there are witnesses being blocked. Now, he didn't say who was blocking him from getting those witnesses, but we know who it is. It's Christopher No Shit Sherlock Ray. It's FBI. That's who's blocking, because that's who he wants to talk to. He wants to talk to the 4 people who interviewed on at least one occasion, and a couple of these guys interviewed on multiple occasions, Steele's primary sub-source. 4 FBI people interviewed Steele's primary sub-source, and 2 of them did multiple interviews with Steele's primary sub-source. Those are the individuals that are being blocked. And that would be Christopher No Shit Sherlock Ray. So there's an agent and an analyst and 2 other people. 4 people total that interviewed Steele's primary sub-source. And it's 2 of these people that Lindsey Graham has subpoenaed that he's getting rebuffed on. And then the other 2, I don't even know if they were on his list. Now, a lot of people are speculating that Stephen Somma is likely this case agent 1. And he is also the person who was identified by Inspector General Huckleberry Horowitz in his report as the agent primarily responsible for some of the most significant errors and omissions in the Carter Page FISA applications. That's what Huckleberry Horowitz put in his report. Stephen Somma, who's likely case agent 1, was identified as the person, the agent, he says, the agent primarily responsible for some of the most significant errors and omissions in the Carter Page FISA applications. And I would almost guarantee you that Somma is probably one of those 2 people that Graham wants to talk to that is being blocked. And there would be one or two reasons for that. Maybe he has already been turned by Durham and is too valuable a witness, and they don't want him talking because they don't want him to provide information that might tip off other people as to the fact that he's turned or what he knows or what he might say. So it could be to protect Durham's investigation, but I'm thinking it's most likely that Ray just wants to protect the FBI, because Somma most likely is someone who could bring a lot of top-tier people down, because if he's questioned about all these things that Horowitz said he did wrong, that he will not just fall on the sword, that he will likely say, yes, but I was under supervision by Strzok or Priestep or Comey or McCabe. He's probably not going to serve it up. So there's obviously a very good reason why they do not want these two guys to be subpoenaed by Lindsey Graham. And what does that tell us? Well, that will tell you that's the two guys you want to talk to. The people that they don't want you to talk to, those are the people you want to talk to. Lindsey Graham, don't be a sissy. Push, and make their names public. Come out and do a press conference and say, trying to do this investigation, trying to do oversight, but Christopher No Shit Sherlock Ray will not let me subpoena these witnesses. And the two guys I want to talk to are so-and-so and so-and-so. And here's what I think that they did. In fact, here's what Horowitz said they did. Here's what I think it leads to. And I would just go out there and just blow it up. Put a lot of pressure, put a lot of heat, bring a lot of heat on No Shit Sherlock Ray. Don't just sit back and passively play the silly game with No Shit Sherlock Ray, Lindsey Graham. This guy's such a hack. I think Lee Smith's probably got it just about right. In response to Lindsey Graham's, there was a tweet where someone tweeted out that short interview clip of Lindsey Graham telling Sean Hannity that there's two witnesses he wants to talk to who are being blocked. He said they are blocking them, but wouldn't identify who they are. We all know who they are. It's the FBI and No Shit Sherlock Ray. So Lee Smith makes a comment on that Twitter feed where that segment is, and Lee Smith says, quote, "The FBI won't let Lindsey Graham interview Stephen Somma because we will find out the primary subsource is another FBI fiction." The FBI won't let Lindsey Graham interview Stephen Somma because we will find out the primary subsource is another FBI fiction. Who do you think that FBI subsource, who do you think the Christopher Steele subsource is? Now, a lot of people have suggested that it's Melion. But what if it turns out to be Cody Shearer, Sidney Blumenthal? How about this? Peter Strzok. That's exactly right. They're not wanting to totally come clean with this subsource, and the whole thing's a sham, and that's why they're still covering it all up, and that's why we got to hope that Durham is an honest man, because Lee Smith is absolutely right. There's something here that's really, really ugly that they're desperately trying to protect. They won't let Lindsey Graham talk to Somma. They won't let him talk to the other person here, some kind of analyst. And they don't want us to find out anything more than what Horowitz would tell us, which is not much, about the primary subsource. So clearly there's something really, really bad here. And that is exactly why you need the press there. So that is the state of affairs, my friends. That is where we are. If you live in a red state, in a red city, thank God you do. I literally empathize. My heart goes out to you if you are a person trapped there in a blue state or a blue city. I realize it's, I honestly have never lived in a blue state or a blue city, so I can't really tell you what that's like, but I know it's got to suck. And I feel really bad for those of you who are watching my videos and you're stuck in that situation. I know if you could leave, you would, but it is hard just to pull up your roots and go. It's what you would prefer is to get rid of the crazy people. And it sucks when you're surrounded by so many other crazy people that you can't get rid of the crazy people that are driving you crazy. And so it's a tough situation. But the only thing we can hope for is that sanity prevails in November, and at some point even Democrats come to some degree of their senses and realize that something has to give, and they got to get rid of these crazy people, just plain and simple, for their own interest, financial interest and otherwise. Watch your property values; they're going to be dropping. And in the meantime, I think if we're going to be talking about defunding something, I think what we should actually be talking about in 2020 and as we roll toward the elections, I think we need to start talking about maybe defunding the Democrats. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. See you. Bye.